Gotta ask a real good question musically. Mace versus Fabulous. Who had a better hip hop career? That's a good question because it's interesting. Mace was slow, almost like it was like a hooked on phonics style, but yet it worked really well because it doubled for Diddy and it worked. And it may sound like a diss. Well, he wasn't a mumble rapper, but his style impacted 50 Cent, you know. And Mace was actually catchy with it. It was slower than what you're used to, but it worked. It was a nasal. Imagine if Melvin Riley, lead singer of Ready for the World, was a rapper. He'd be like Mace's daddy. But it worked. Let me love you down. And then think about, we bad boy, we got this. If you think about Melvin Riley before Keith Sweat, think about that. Then fast forward to Mace. It's a musical situation. I'm just saying, put it together. It's crazy how it works out. It's crazy. So Mace's style was very impactful. Of course, he did the deals with Brandy. He had it going on. Did all them remixes with Mariah Carey, with Diddy, back when Mariah was interesting. Not that mess she come up with now, but back when she was interesting. And she was acting like she was breaking the chains so she could listen to the hip hop remixes and the rappers. Mace was a good fit. Mace had that kind of coolness that worked. And he laced those tracks up. His style worked. His style worked. It was actually like a nod to the South, but it was East Coast. So his was an interesting hybrid, if you will. It was interesting. It just flowed a certain way. So, he might not have been seen as the deepest thinker as far on the mic, but his flow definitely made him work. It was catchy. Definitely. And you think about it, he was like an unlikely story, but him and working with Diddy and doing those hooks with Big and all that, it was just what the doc thought. It was a yin and yang. Fabulous was more New York than you can imagine. He was like a hybrid. If Diddy and Jay Z had a son, he would be it. He had all the New York cadences. He was just too cool. He had that New York flavor. Problem what I had with Fab for me though is that it all pretty much kind of felt the same, and his delivery and flow. I think actually the hook work were like when he had to me or had somebody doing singing or hook. That's where he was more effective. But his rapping flow just kind of went like pretty much like paint. It was cool for what it was, and it was very New York, but it didn't really, it just didn't really have that zing. There's something about Mace actually had that zing. Now asking me who was a better rapper, Fabulous had better skill set, and he was actually felt more New Yorker than Mace, but Mace made more sense. It was something about Mace's cadence that just connected more. Fabulous then had a longer career, but it's just not, it just doesn't quite hit the same for me when I think about the two. And I'm, breaking it down like that on the angles. But um it's interesting when you factor that in, it's like, okay, because it all depends on what you're looking for, depends on what your trajectory is. So um it's an interesting question I got asked on a live stream recently because it took me a while to kind of think about it. And I had to think about how am I going to answer that question? Whose style hit me the more? Who did I prefer the more of the two? You know? And then I had to kind of put myself in that frame of mind. But I thought Mace was able to hit them songs out better than Fab. But Fab's style was more New Yorkish because he definitely, the inspiration. But anyway, let me know who you think out of Mason Fabulous, who you think had the better hip hop career. Please like, subscribe, work on thoughts, comments, and I do respond. Thank you. Wash your hands. Keep your mind clear. Watch out for nothing shitter if you like. Stay safe, stay blessed, stay woke, stay free. I'm out of time. Peace.